Hey everyone, just wanted to let you all know it's pretty cool if you guys subscribe. Otherwise, fucking you like Amy Schumer. Hey yo, this guy likes Amy Schumer. Yo, everybody get this.
Long ago in a distant land, I, Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness, unleashed an unspeakable evil.
That's right, I'm doing Cartoon Network shows. You see, though I didn't grow up with Cartoon Network nearly as much as I did Nickelodeon or even Disney Channel, Cartoon Network is arguably the best when it comes to overall quality, especially from the late aughts to early 2010s, which is what I grew up with the most. So today, I want to take a look back at this amazing network's history to find out what the best shows really are. Some notes, these have to be Cartoon Network shows, not Adult Swim or syndicated programming. So shows like Flintstones and Rick and Morty won't be seen on this list. Also, yes, the video is supposed to be called the top 16 and a half Cartoon Network shows. I'll explain best I can. This is the top 16 and a half Cartoon Network shows.
Is that it?
No, that is not it.
Number 16 and a half. Samurai Jack seasons 1 through 4. I argue this is the show that might be one of Cartoon Network's weirdest. Being helmed by the amazing Jindy Tartakovsky, the guy behind Hotel Transylvania and Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack is just a perfect blend of humor with badass action. Following a samurai who tries to fight the evil force Aku, the samurai played by Phil LaMarr and Aku being played by the late great Mako. Please tell me I fucking got that right. I'm so sorry, guys. I love him as much as you guys do. Samurai Jack must now get back to the past, as the bumpin' theme song suggests. Gotta get back to the past, Jack! The entirety of Samurai Jack is near a delight, with a really fun animation, a good chemistry between hero and villain, and really great characters in between. I think what starts the list rather than it be higher is two factors. Factor number one, I have that Prince of Egypt feeling where I feel like it would have been way better if I had tuned in every week and saw it, rather than just watch it on some kind of crappy website. The second factor is that I would have much more preferred that I could talk about all 5 seasons. But not only do I not have access to season 5 the same way I had to the first 4 seasons, but the 5th season was only on Adult Swim. So it feels ridiculous to immediately break one of my list rules. So yeah, the reason it's so low is ultimately down to the cards the show is dealt. But for every shitty hand it was dealt, it had at least 5 royal flushes, and that's what makes Samurai Jack a great start to the list.
What? Huh? Extra large?
Number 15. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's hard to say exactly what makes this show so charming. Being helmed by the amazing Craig McCracken, who also created the Powerpuff Girls, I thought Professor Plutomania made them. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends has a very colorful cast of characters, both figuratively and quite literally. None of these characters have the same primary color. Okay, that takes a dedication. It follows a boy named Max staying with his imaginary friend Blue at, what else, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. From there, all kinds of hijinks ensue, and they all have a very nice, charming message to go alongside them. The main character of Mac is pretty forgettable by everyone else's standards of just popping out of the screen and really sticking with you. Blue can be kinda jerky and at times really unlikable, but overall he can be a great character and is often paired alongside the other iconic CN characters. Wilt, I mean he's voiced by Phil LaMarr, so you know, iconic. Fuck is a Hermes? Tom Kenny voices like 20 characters. As he should! Coco literally just says her name. and yet she's still more memorable than our admittedly weak main character. However, the creative situations each episode and colorful cast of characters really bring this one home. I'd be lying if I said it was the best show, but definitely worth a spot on this list. Number 14. Ben 10. Ben 10 is another case of I didn't watch it when I was younger, but unlike something like Prince of Egypt or Samurai Jack, I feel like I didn't miss much. Which isn't to say Ben 10 is bad. I just feel like I didn't have to tune in each week to find out what happens next. I like shows that can be binged without feeling like you're rushing anything. With that out of the way, Ben 10 is a very creative show. A boy named Ben Tennyson, how fucking coincidental, finds that Rolex with aliens in it. I'm right, deal with it. The show's strong points aren't on the characters or story, they're definitely on the aliens' designs. None of the Rolex's aliens look the same. They all have something unique about them. But that's not to count out the likable characters and somewhat strong, sometimes weak story. Ben himself is a very likable character, especially in the 2017 reboot. I'm fucking joking. The other characters do feel like they get the right amount of screen time, where I usually think a side character in these shows get too much attention. Nothing like that happens here. And again, the strongest element of the show is how many of these aliens have the right creative effort put into them. I can't act like it's an especially deep of a show, but it definitely deserved a spot on this list. Number 13. Total Drama Island. I'm not fucking joking. I'm a huge Survivor guy. Ever since I was 12, I really enjoy the concept behind the show. And I think that's why Total Drama Island resonated with me so much. Not because it's an especially good competition, on the contrary, it's predictable as all get out. But it's because they capture everything stupid about the show. When a winner is crowned and it turns out to be completely out of left field, yeah, that happens on the show. Just look at Survivor Thailand. People who are just complete douchebags for no reason? Again, Survivor Thailand. People being eliminated for no damn reason other than it's entertaining to watch. How have I never realized this? Total Drama Island is chock full of really likable characters and an overall really fun story to go along with it. While not as well made as the stuff it's parodying, when has that ever been the case? I argue it parodies most of what makes Survivor popular to a decent amount. However, I can only talk about the first 3 seasons of the show. After that, yeah, it kinda got stupid, and not in the fun way. Who the fuck gave Steve Urkel a spot on this show? But in a lot of ways, Total Drama perfectly captures what made people remember Survivor and Big Brother and all those big competition shows. Even if at times it did its job a little too well.
No, come on!
I'm glad we're in our own cabin with just guys, you know what I mean? I mean, no! I didn't mean it like that! I love chicks! I just don't want to sleep near them.
Number 12. Chowder. Chowder, compared to emotional powerhouses and hard-hitting animated series, doesn't really hold a candle. But in terms of characters, story, humor, and animation, I think there's just enough to Chowder to call it a charming little show. Following a chef's apprentice, funny enough named Chowder, the show always follows Chowder trying to take the next step in his culinary career, while Mung Dal, his slightly more professional mentor, is skeptical. In fact, as a few episodes have proven, he's not a very good cook. But Chowder is just so damn determined to be the best chef in town, you can't help but root for him. Chowder as a character can have a grating voice at times, but it's balanced out by a really charming, pretty childlike personality. Probably because, well, he's a child. It's not rocket science, Xander. You are not Bill Nye! But the strong points of the show, similar to Foster's Home, are the other characters, alongside the humor. This show is so goddamn funny. There's moments where me and my buddies would just be crying laughing. A bunch of grown-ass men laughing at, "Whoa, man, you are one giant lump of coal!" It's funny, I watched Jellystone on HBO Max and thought it had a very similar humor style. And then I found out, what do you know, it was created by the same guy, C.H. Greenblatt. Dumbass. Chowder's weak points are sadly some of the same problems with Foster's Home. At times the main character really annoys, and there's 1 or 2 side characters that kinda get sidelined in some episodes. But I think there's way more good about it than bad. Hell, even Lil Nas X made a music video about it. Fuck is an Old Town Road? So yeah, hard to hate Chowder because the character is too damn charming, if not just slightly annoying. Solid show from a solid era.
I simply love purple apples. Can't you give me 3 sample to a pretty lady?
Sure. Do you know one?
Number 11. The Amazing World of Gumball. The Amazing World of Gumball is admittedly just outside of the top 10 because for me, it kinda lost me in the last few seasons. Maybe it's just because at that point I was losing my love for Cartoon Network, I was growing out of it. But I still can't deny how creative a show Gumball is, utilizing all different styles of animation from 2D to CGI to 8-bit to some live action, including this Whoa, hey, back the fuck up. Okay, moving on.
Once upon a
What did you just say to me?
time.
Catch these hands, creepy chin bitch. Anyways, the Amazing World of Gumball's greatest strength is arguably the variety of characters. Even if a character is boring at first, we usually get enough of the character to get their personality down. And the sheer amount of those characters is a feat on its own. I kid you not, there's a dinosaur, a robot, another less violent dinosaur, what I imagine a hairball would look like if it was laced with Lucky Charms, a cloud, and of course at the center of the madness, the Watterson family. Of course, Gumball, his best friend... Okay. My friend's ready, guys. Yippee! Of course, Gumball, his best friend, brother, pet... Yeah, Darwin. Damn, shut up! Moving on, we have their little sister Anais, who's in kind of a funny twist, way smarter than the two of them combined. Their dim-witted father, Richard, and their mother... their mother. Oh, got me bricked up. I really need to see someone about it. I would do unspeakable things to Nicole Watterson, and none of you can stop me. But the rest of the show does have strong storytelling, humor, and as I said, a variety of good characters who just get the right amount of screen time. But as I mentioned, the later seasons become very alienating, and I just didn't find them as funny as the past seasons. As if they were trying too hard to be funny. I think the earlier stuff definitely didn't have to try to be funny, it just came naturally. But hey, it's a solid show, and I hear we're getting a movie soon. I'll definitely be checking that out too. There's a lot to the show, I definitely recommend checking it out. Number 10. We Bare Bears. Well, it's far from flawless. We Bare Bears has become a very cute and lovable show. It's not incredibly deep or insanely emotional like some of the other Cartoon Network shows. I argue there was a much smaller show that utilized emotion a little better. I'm sure none of y'all have heard of it, Steven Universe or something. No, of course, it's not meant to be as deep or emotionally traumatizing as the other powerhouses at the time. What it is meant to be is a small, cutesy show with charming enough characters and a cute concept. And in terms of that goal, it certainly achieves more than it fails. Following three bear brothers, simply named Grizz, Ice Bear, and Panda, the show follows their very simple, mostly not complex adventures, usually pertaining to stories about being famous or something other than what we see in the powerhouses. I think that's why so many people fell in love with this show. I was hearing about this show for months since its airing in 2015, and it's clear to see why. It's got a very similar charm to Harvey Beaks. The fuck? Both shows are very cutesy, have very likable and charming characters, and often rely on the simple adventures rather than be an episodic epic like something like Steven Universe or Gravity Falls. Nothing against those shows, they are great shows in their own, but what works for those shows obviously is different from what works from these shows. And on the topic of Harvey Beaks, I'm just gonna go on a tangent here. Nickelodeon canceled this amazing and heartwarming show, but gave fucking Loud House more greenlighting. Because if there's anything I enjoy more than heartwarming characters and good writing, it's the Loud House. You know, the show that has one joke and has to base its entire personality off of one trait characters who have barely interesting going on with them. The show that literally tells kids it's okay to treat people like absolute fucking garbage as long as you do a half-assed apology at the end. The show that literally makes shows like Robot and Monster look like fucking Akira. Okay, moving on. Now, screw this. The Loud House is seriously one of the most unfunny and unlikable shows I have ever had the displeasure of watching. I've watched modern SpongeBob and it never goes quite into the realm of this show. They seriously have an episode where they all hate him because they think he's bad luck. This show is such a what's wrong with Nickelodeon show. I have never in my life seen a show that has made me not laugh any more than this unfunny piece of shit. Nickelodeon, every time you greenlight this shit show for another season, God's humongous sausage finger comes closer and closer to smiting us. Oh my god, I might be insane. All due seriousness, if you like this show, that's awesome. Just ignore my rambling. I'm gonna make sure that my mic had to, oh my god. Anyways, Loud Houses aside, We Bare Bears is a really fun show and I have very little else to say. Charming and fun enough to keep you engaged in the lovable and huggable characters. No bearing of bad news here. The cuteness and charm is too much to bear. Now take it away, bare naked ladies.
It's been...
Number 9. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. In terms of comedy, Grim Adventures definitely gets it down right. The show is just really funny. Following two siblings, Billy and Mandy, oh that's why it's called that, they, like all kids their age, have the fucking Grim Reaper as a friend, and the adventures they go on are rather grim, I don't know. But as I just mentioned, this show's strong suit is definitely the show's humor. While there is the stuff meant for kids, I dare say even teens and young adults will get a good laugh. And most of them come from Grimm. Whoever had the genius idea of making the Grim Reaper Jamaican, I wish you nothing but the best in your career. The show, interestingly, was originally part of a 2-show marathon, with the other show being Evil Con Carn. Obviously, with the fact that Evil Con Carn only ran for 1 year, one show obviously hit closer to home base, and that show was Grim Adventures. The show offers so much in terms of comedy and character, even if at times the main character of Billy becomes a little grating, with similar but not too similar issues to Chowder. That being said, so much of what makes this show great is its humor. Not much else to say, don't have any rants about lesser shows this time, go see it if you haven't already. It might be Grim Adventures, but it sure isn't Grim damn it.
Hey there, guys! I saw you making that thingy there, and I just happened to notice that all y'all's shoelaces are untied. Yeah!
Number 8. Ed, Edd n Eddy. Yeah, it's hard not to talk about this show. For a while, everyone called it Cartoon Network's best show. And while that's obviously not the case for most people, it's hard not to see the influence behind Ed, Edd n Eddy. Following 3 boys trying to scam the neighborhood kids out of quarters for jawbreakers, and the rest of the show follows these rather colorful characters and the scenarios they get themselves into. Similar to Chowder or Grim Adventures, the humor is the strong point of the show. Not to mention this show definitely utilizes slapstick more than those shows. The main characters range from mildly annoying to just too damn likable. And at the center of the show is 3 very distinct main characters, despite them all having similar names. It's funny, I compare this show a lot to the Nicktoon The Angry Beavers. While it's not the best the network has offered, clearly it has a really strong point in its humor. And while I definitely think Ed, Edd n Eddy's the better show, the similarities are there. Overall, Ed, Edd n Eddy might not be Cartoon Network's crowning achievement like everyone made it out to be, but in a lot of ways, I think that's what's so charming about it.
Intriguing. Slowly. How embarrassing. Seems to be a 15-amp resistor. Who would have thought? I love knowledge.
Number 7. Teen Titans. Go! Man, I do love this show. It's so funny and has such a good sense of humor, especially when Beast Boy and Cyborg started talking about fucking waffles, dude. I'm genuinely laughing my ass off. My ass is gone. For your Emmy consideration, Modern Family, not Teen Titans Go. I'm fucking with you guys. Number 7 is, of course, Teen Titans. At a time where the best superhero shows usually pertain to either darker material for older kids or parody, Teen Titans brilliantly mix the two to make a really charming and fun show. Teen Titans follows, well, the Teen Titans, usually pertaining to their action-packed adventures, fighting off crime and cracking a joke here and there. What I like about this show is that it doesn't focus too much on the humor or too much on the action. It brilliantly blends the two. While at times the humor dominates the scene, it's usually mixed with some great action and some genuinely interesting drama. And at the center of the show is a great team we know and love. While I'm personally more of a League of Super Pets guy myself, how do you make a dog that looks like Dwayne Johnson? This team offers a lot of different personalities that work off of each other's personalities so well. The show has one glaring flaw, however, and honestly, it's a lot bigger than the simple flaws we've seen before. It doesn't hurt the show, but it certainly changes a lot. And I'm talking about the series finale. I'm sure you've heard it countless times before, but I'm going to be the next to say it's not a finale that's going to satisfy everyone. In fact, I've never heard 2 same opinions on this finale. Some say it's awful, some say it's genius, some say they don't know how to feel about it. But overall, I think there's something very special about a finale like that, because it proves the show has a fan base that cares. And while, yes, the technical finale to the show was the TV movie Trouble in Tokyo, I don't think people realize just how important this show truly was. Teen Titans is definitely worth the price of admission. Number 6.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
Courage the Cowardly Dog. While I was just past the show's run on Cartoon Network, I sadly only watched reruns, and I think there was something special about the fact that my introduction to this show wasn't through Cartoon Network, it was through fucking YouTube. So YouTube is good for something. Courage the Cowardly Dog is a show that offers something that most of Cartoon Network's programming doesn't offer, the opportunity of scaring the brick shit out of its audience. It'd be stupid to name an episode of the show that was scary. It's harder to name an episode of the show that was normal. This is one of those shows that didn't care what it was being shown, as long as it was being shown. To name the episodes that stuck with me the most, I'd say the episode with that creepy dude trying to shave Courage, the episode with the demonic Muriel, King Ramses' Curse, and Perfect. So I'll rather focus my attention on those episodes and discuss how those best represent the series. The barber who tries to shave Courage, I just want to say his name is Freaky Fred. I don't know, I didn't bother looking it up, but the episode definitely understands how to make an uncanny character, rather than just make him straight up scary looking. The dude emits the same energy the big bad wolf from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish emits, where the intimidation comes more from his uncanny nature rather than his appearance. Demonic Muriel represents everything horrifying about the show, very little else to say. King Ramses' curse was a perfect representation of did you see that episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog last night? Even if the CG on King Ramses is a little outdated, it still delivers the what? Wait. King Ramses.
Well, I'll get you more pumpkin and I'll ram it right up your fucking ass. Would you like it whole or diced?
Finally, perfect. In my opinion, one of the best cartoon episodes out there. Delivering the scare at just the right time, not explaining the scare, leaving a more ominous vibe to what the creature is, and overall, just a generally well done tackling of the subject. The subject of striving to be perfect and where it's ultimately going to get you. Bringing me to my next prompt, the show definitely teaches lessons. Don't trust strangers, be aware of your surroundings. Even if it does it in the most make sure I smell the shit in their pants way, it's still a well done method. Courage doesn't say a word. I've seen cartoons with protagonists who talk too much, and it squanders the entire show. Or it can be a protagonist who talks but doesn't say enough to make the people remember him. You know, Mac. The fact that Courage only speaks through occasional words and what I imagine my buddy and employee Gabe sounds like when he's trying to explain why he spends $100 on Madden games. EA is still in business because of your financial issues. But because... he's gonna be so pissed. But besides the point, Courage is a very memorable character, often being one of Cartoon Network's most iconic shows. While flawed, I think Courage the Cowardly Dog is a really solid show that captures a lot of what makes us secretly love to be scared. But where enough, I always hear people say the show has similarities to Flapjack. What? These two are completely different shows. Flapjack has the jump scares out of scenic fucking nowhere, while Courage builds up the scares, often taking the episode to make you realize what we're supposed to be scared of. It knows how to space the ominous vibe out without being too over the top. So obviously you won't be seeing Flapjack on this list, but I also need to say I don't think Flapjack is a bad show, but it clearly had a different approach to the shit your pants moments. But outside of that, I think there's a lot to Courage the Cowardly Dog that I totally get why people remember it to this day, whether that be from the show itself or the nightmares.
You're not perfect.
I fucking know! Number 5. Johnny Bravo. Again, this show was long before my time, but what sets this apart from Courage is that I never caught any reruns or anything. But that being said, I was able to check it out on streaming services and gave the series a watch. And may I say, yeah, this show is just a classic in the making. Following a man who thinks he's Elvis, you're not Austin Butler. Well, actually, that's just the concept of the show. The actual show follows a self-important narcissistic man named Johnny Bravo, who loves to praise himself and chase after chicks. Obviously, none of the chicks he chases after are interested in him, often leading to some pretty great and humorous scenarios. What I like about this show is just how much of an absolute moron Johnny is. He hits everything you would make in a checklist of douchebag at the bar hitting at you, yet it's never done in the mean style of that. Johnny is not unlikable. On the contrary, he's a very sweet guy who just gets the wrong message across. But what I always look forward to in each episode isn't how Johnny acts, it's how the woman he chases after acts. I love that this show gets the message, guys, she's just not that into you. Admittedly, it's hard to believe every one of these people weren't interested in Johnny. I'm interested in Johnny. The fuck is wrong with me? But what I think ultimately makes people remember this show is the humor. It's seriously so well done. The wit is there, and the titular character, he said tit, clearly knows how to make a good joke work. The show is just chock full of quotable moments and great scenarios, and at the center of it all is a very likable main character, even if at times he's a little too ambitious. Overall, Johnny Bravo keeps you entertained, and then some. Now, do the zebra with me. What the? Who the fuck told me false information? Number 4. ScoobyDoo Mystery Incorporated. I'll be the one to tell you all, this is the closest I will ever get to talking about Velma. Anyways, and probably what is one of Scooby-Doo's best adaptations, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated is a solid show, bringing a new dark edge to Scooby-Doo and the gang. The show doesn't look or feel like any other Scooby-Doo adaptation. It has this gothic look to it, and an overall darker sense of humor. But not in the way that makes these iconic characters unlikable or mean-spirited. You know, like this piece of shit. You know, where clearly there was no love behind it. That is a whole other can of worms, I don't want to open it. The darker sense of humor and imagery rather add to the overall vibe and feel of Mystery Incorporated. I love that this show bothered giving these characters personalities other than their one-trait cardboard shit they had since the 70s. If you were to ask me, how was Fred in What's New Scooby-Doo? I would tell you, oh, he's just Fred. Don't get me wrong, I love What's New Scooby-Doo, but outside of the point, if you were to ask me how was Fred and Mystery incorporated, I would go into a 20-minute tangent of why Fred is better than he's ever been. And then you'd probably get out of my house because you think I'm like insane or something. And as I mentioned, the imagery is just brilliant, often utilizing darker colors and more eerie environments to better get in that ominous feel most Scooby-Doo properties are missing, rather than just be watch me swoosh right in. What makes this show great is what makes other Scooby-Doo adaptations not so great. If any other show tried to pull this shit, it wouldn't go down the same way. The dark and edgy vibe, the more defined characters, and overall just a way more interesting concept for something that, God bless it, has become known for its formulaic feel. Overall, it is my favorite Scooby-Doo adaptation. Not even a pup named Scooby-Doo could top this show. What'd they do to my girl Daphne? Number 3. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. In one of the most beloved properties by Star Wars, The Clone Wars has become kind of a mainstay for a lot of people in terms of Star Wars universe. No other Star Wars property has gained quite the following Clone Wars has, and while I'm not a Star Wars guy, I don't hate it, I just don't watch it. I'm talking to you, Kyle, from 5th grade. Yeah, that's right. I ain't forgot that day where you pants me and walked away with your posse while chanting, "Live long and prosper." I ain't forgot, motherfucker. Guys, chill. I wasn't bullied in 5th grade, guys. I was very popular in school. I totally was. They all hated me. Back to the show, Star Wars: The Clone Wars is a very clever tale told by really great writing, memorable characters, and Ahsoka. Let the Comet Wars begin. But in all due seriousness, I never felt like there was a character that fell behind or didn't deliver. Even as someone who doesn't follow Star Wars, I can safely say each character delivers on what they need to deliver on. And to avoid death threats, allow me to fully say I was joking about Ahsoka. Great character like the rest of the cast. Alright, are we on good terms with Star Wars community? Alright, Star Trek is better. Moving on. What ultimately makes this show great is that it doesn't shy away from the more mature topics. Like the films themselves, or at least what I've followed, they aren't afraid to tackle those situations head on. And that definitely helps the show. Not to mention, this is one of the few CG animated shows to still have good animation by today's standards. I'm not even kidding, the first episode still looks halfway decent by today's standards. So yeah, even though I don't keep up with Star Wars, I think there's something very special about this show that could resonate with even non-Star Wars fans. Though I don't think you'll understand unless you watch the prequels, which means
I don't like sand.
And I don't like you! Number 2. Adventure Time. I'll be honest, when I first watched Adventure Time when I was 10, I didn't really like it. To me, it was too complicated. I gladly tuned into Fanboy and Chum Chum as a kid. I realized my mistake. Adventure Time is a very solid show with 2 lovable main characters who have such great chemistry. But not only that, the weird adventures they get into and the weird characters they come across compensate for honestly a way more complicated main story than it needs to be. But that is nitpicking, because the show succeeds at so much more than what it fails at. This is one of those weirdly wholesome shows that happen to be mixed with good humor and a likable cast of characters. To put in perspective, I'll just say it now, Steven Universe is an honorable mention. But I kind of compare the two in that the cast of characters definitely outweigh the bigger issues with the show. Even though I consider Adventure Time to be a lot better than Steven Universe, nothing against the show, it's fine. Adventure Time knows how to balance good writing with a great story. Admittedly though, the story can be a little jumbled and messy, particularly in the first season. But it does pick up, and by the show's final season on Cartoon Network, yeah, they did that and it was absolutely amazing in every way. By the final season of the show's run, you really get to know these characters and you feel for them. But I argue the show is just short of number 1. Admittedly, it was hard to decide between my top 2, but allow me to explain to you all, I give so much respect to this show for just how much effort was put into it. Overall, I consider Adventure Time to be a new peak for Cartoon Network, and the only show to beat it will be revealed after we hear a word from our honorable mentions. Steven Universe. Steven Universe is a great show, but I argue I wasn't on the hype train when it was big. I don't know, I guess I just didn't watch enough to fully get the hype. Good show, just not on the same boat. Craig of the Creek. Craig of the Creek is a new CN show, but I think it's got a good enough heart to be at least an honorable mention. The Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, I'll keep it a buck. I didn't really watch this show growing up, and I still haven't really watched a lot of it. I'm sure it's a great show, and I've seen clips, I just can't really get into it. Dexter's Laboratory. This one ultimately got beat out by Samurai Jack, not because it's inferior or anything, but because I really wanted to call this video a top 16 and half list, and also it's my opinion. And the number 1 Cartoon Network show of all time is The Problem Solvers. That's right, I call the shots around here, and my opinion is law. This show is one of the greatest to ever exist. Don't you like seeing your eyes bleed while they melt out of your sockets? Okay, enough horsing around it. It's not BoJack! Number 1 is Regular Show. It's a regular show. There are plenty of reasons for Regular Show to be on this list. It's the first cartoon I ever tuned into weekly. It's a show that takes simple concepts and blows them into hilarious proportions. It's a show that has one of the best ensemble of memorable and likable characters I've ever seen. It's got the funniest jokes, the best scenarios, great action, great suspense, and a kick-ass final season. Remember I said the finale of Teen Titans felt like it didn't deliver? Imagine a season of the opposite of that. Nothing but back-to-back banger episodes all leading to the epic finale like no other. This show has one of my personal favorite series finales, not just by cartoon standards, by TV standards. It is the perfect way to end a show, and all of it goes back to their simple idea of two best friends slacking off and getting into wacky scenarios. There is no normal episode of regular show, and that in itself is a feat. As I mentioned, so many of these characters have become Cartoon Network classics, sticking with people even to this day. It is one of those shows I have very few problems with. Anything I have issues with are nitpicks. Overall, I consider regular show the best Cartoon Network programming. But that's just my opinion. Did you guys know that Undertale was actually released in 2003, but it wasn't called Undertale, it was called Finding Nemo? But that's just a theory. Anyways, I'll be right back. I gotta go pick up my car from the shop. Alright, I'm back. I completely forgot where the shop was. Is that fucking Post Malone cheese?